Today we're going to talk about production of consciousnesses. We have 8 consciousnesses: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, manas, and alaya. Everything in the world is produced by these 8 consciousnesses. When you really understand condition arising of our consciousnesses, you will realize everything is empty in nature. In order to see something, the eye consciousness requires 9 conditions. We need space. We cannot see if an object is close to our eyes like this. We need a little distance. 2, we also need light. In the darkness, we won't be able to see anything. 3, we need the organ. There are 2 kinds of organs. 1 is the superficial organ. 2 is the pure form organ. The superficial organ is the physical organ on the outside. In this case, it would be our eyeballs. But there are invisible visual organs. We call it pure organs, kind of like our Buddha nature, not really physical. We should try to see the world with this pure organ instead of just our eyeballs. 4, we also need to have the state, means the object of our attention. The eyes, they need to see form. The state is the object of our eye consciousness. 5, we also need attention. This is a mental factor. You have to be aware. I want to focus on this, or I want to focus on that. The object of your attention determines your wholesome deed and unwholesome deeds. Number 6, we also need the 6th consciousness, which is our intellectual mind. We call it the basis of discrimination. Without the 6th consciousness, even with the eye organ, we won't be able to distinguish anything. We also need the 7th consciousness, which is called the manas. It grasps onto the 8th consciousness as the strong self. The 7th consciousness is called the basis of defilement or purity, depending on how strong the sense of the ego is, how defiled it is. If it's without the self, it's turned pure, then it's called the purity consciousness. So the 7th consciousness determines our defilement and our purity. Number 8, we need the 8th consciousness, the alaya consciousness. This is the fundamental basis of our consciousness. So of course, the eye consciousness also need the big storehouse. Number 9, we need the seeds of the eye consciousness that is stored in the alaya consciousness. We need all 9 conditions in order for us to see something out of all 8 consciousnesses. This is the most that we need. What about our ears? It actually needs less. Our ears also need spacing between our ears and the sound. If the sound is always attached to our ears, we won't be able to hear anything. Does the ear need lights? No, you can hear in the darkness. So we do not check this box. The ear also needs the organ, which means the ear itself. Again, there are 2 kinds of organs. One is the superficial, the eardrum, the earlobe. The second one is the internal pure form that is not visible. The ear also needs the object of sound to hear. 5, we need attention. If you're in a party, there's a lot of people talking, you focus on the sound of the person you're talking to. So that's the mental factor of attention. 6, it needs the 6th consciousness, 7th consciousness, and the fundamental 8th consciousness. Lastly, it needs the seed of the ear consciousness. So the eyes needs 9 and ear we have an 8. Now let's look at our nose, tongue, and body. They only need 7 conditions. They do not need space. They can come in direct contact with the sense objects. The nose can smell, the tongue can taste, the body can touch with direct contact. So they do not need space between the organ and the object. They do not need light to smell, to taste, or to touch. We can do all these things in the darkness. We do need the organs. We need our nose, we need our tongue, we need our body, but mostly we need the pure form organs that is actually in line with our true nature. If you always live in duality, for example, this smells good or bad, or this tastes good or bad, we will never be in touch with our true nature. These three senses also need the smell, taste, touch. These three senses, they also need the mental factor of attention. I want to smell this, or I want to taste this, or I want to touch this. I want to notice a certain object. So I get to pick. That's the mental factor of attention. We also need the 6 consciousness to discriminate, the 7 consciousness, the sense of the self, the 8 consciousness, the big storehouse, the alaya consciousness. Lastly, they all need the seeds in order for it to arise. Therefore, the nose, tongue, and body, they all need 7 conditions. Now let's look at our mind consciousness. It actually needs a lot less conditions. It only needs 5. We do not need space to think. We do not need light to think. But we do need organ. What is the organ of my mind? It is actually the 7 consciousness. If we check the organ here, then we do not check it with the 7 consciousness because you would be counting it twice. We only count it 1 time. How do we think? When we see, we hear, we always have a strong sense of self. I like this, I don't like this, because the 7 consciousness is so strong. The state that the mind comes in contact with is called the Dharma sense object. Basically, all your thoughts, they are called Dharma. A shadow cast within the mind by the 5 external objects: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. You think about whatever you experience with your 5 sense organs. You have a shadow image. You put it in your intellectual mind by the external 5 objects. We call it the sense object of the Dharma. Also, the mind consciousness, it needs the mental factor of attention. It does not need the 6 consciousness because that's itself. It does not need the 7 because we already checked the organ. But we do need the 8 consciousness, the big storehouse, and we do need the seed of the mind consciousness. The 6 consciousness, the thinking mind, it needs 5 conditions. Now let's look at the 7 consciousness. This sense of self, it actually needs very few conditions. It only needs 3. It's the least out of all the 8 consciousnesses. The manas, the sense of the self, consciousness, it does not need space, does not need light, doesn't need any organs, doesn't need any object. It needs attention. Pay attention to me, to alaya consciousness. So we do check the attention box. It does not need the 6 consciousness for it to function. It does not need itself. It needs the big alaya consciousness, the 8 consciousness, and it needs the seed of the manas consciousness. As you can see, sense of self, it needs very little conditions. The more condition it needs, the less frequent it will come into function. Which consciousness arises all the time? The 7. Even when you're sleeping, you're dreaming, it's always functioning. Lastly, the alaya consciousness, it only needs 4, pretty much like the manas. Because these 2, they don't go outside. It doesn't need many factors. It doesn't need space, it doesn't need light, it doesn't need organ. What is the organ of the alaya consciousness, the big storehouse? Actually, it's the 7 consciousness, the manas again. They use each other interdependently. So the 7 is the alaya's organ. And what is the state of the alaya consciousness? It's actually all the seeds stored in the alaya consciousness. And it's all the sense organs and all worldly objects are all objects of the alaya consciousness. The alaya consciousness also need the mental factor of attention, so we do check this box. It does not need the 6 consciousness, does not need 7, because we already check the alaya is the 8 consciousness, so we don't check it again. Lastly, we do need the seeds of the alaya consciousness in order for the alaya to be produced. The alaya consciousness, it needs 4 conditions. Why do we need to know this? Because everything is only a creation of your 8 consciousnesses. Depending on the conditions at the time, you use your eye consciousness, ear consciousness, all your different consciousness in order for you to be living in this world. But it's all condition arising, it's all emptiness. To understand emptiness, that's when you can bring out your Buddha nature. You're really living in this world. When you're smelling, when you're tasting, when you're touching, you are not living in the world duality. You're living in your true Buddha nature. Guanyin Bodhisattva, she used her hearing to be enlightened. She says, I entered the flow through hearing and forgot all objective states. How did she become Guanyin Bodhisattva? She says, when I hear, I don't dwell on the object insulting me, being rude. That's not what I hear. I let go of all discrimination with my 6 consciousness. I can hear what everybody needs. They're in suffering. They're asking me for help because I already enlightened with my sense of hearing. I can go straight and help them. Everybody can be enlightened through their senses. As long as you understand emptiness, then when you hear, when you smell, when you taste, when you see, you understand you should stay in your true, pure consciousness instead of the discriminating mind full of defilement and the sense of self. In the conscious school of Buddhism, all conditions, we categorize them into 4 conditions. First, it needs the causal conditions. What is the main cause of everything? Seeds is the cause of all condition arising. Without seeds, you have nothing. These are karmic seeds. Your good deeds, your bad deeds, your good thoughts and bad thoughts, they are stored as seeds in the alaya consciousness. Without the seeds, there's nothing that will be produced in the world. Not even consciousnesses. All dharmas of the world. The main cause is always the seeds. The red is the causal conditions. Number 2, we need focal conditions. What you focus on with your consciousness. So you always need the subject and the object. The object is called the focal conditions in this chart. Which one is the focal condition? It's the state, what you focus on, what you see, what you hear, is a sound, is a smell. Without an object, the subject is pointless. Therefore, focal condition is the state, the sense objects. There are 2 kinds of sense objects of our focal conditions in the conscious school of Buddhism: close focal conditions and distant focal conditions. Our consciousness is like a camera. We always see from the lens of the camera. You never actually see the real state of the object. So the distant focal condition is the real state itself. But we can never see it. We always see inside the lens. That's like a shadow, like a copy. That's called the closed focal condition. Out of the 9 conditions, only the seeds is the causal conditions, states is the focal conditions. Everything else, we call it augmenting conditions. Other than the blue and the red, everything else, they are augmenting, they're helping, they're supporting for consciousness to arise. Lastly, there is a special kind of conditions, immediate preceding conditions. our thoughts, we can only have one at a time. So one thought needs to leave, next thought will come in, just like you're in the doctor's office. There's only one seat. The person leaves, the next person can come and sit here again. You think one thought at a time. You cannot have multiple. So that's because we have this condition, the immediate preceding condition. This is the purple color. We did not put it in this chart. There are only 9 conditions. If I add this immediate preceding condition, we will have to add a number 10 here. Then all the consciousness arising will need to add 1. So if I add this condition, this would be from 9 to 10. This will be 8 to 9. This will be 7 to 8. Each of them, we will need to add 1 to the condition chart. That will make it complete. If you want to really understand the production of our consciousnesses. So as you can see, the conscious school of Buddhism, we call it Yogacara. It's very deep. The way we think and the way we see and hear and come in contact with the world is consciousness alone. Nothing is outside of our mind. Bodhisattva Nagarjuna said, for dharmas arising from conditions, I affirm that they are empty. They are conventional, but yet indicate the meaning of the middle way. So there are 3 important things here. Everything is condition arising, as you can see in this board. I affirm that they are empty. They have no real substance. They are constantly changing depending on all the conditions. If it's always changing, it must be empty. You cannot be caught up with what you see, what you hear, what you experience. You think it's so real, but nothing of what you experience is real. It's only a fabrication of your consciousnesses. So understand the emptiness of all things. You will not be attached. You will let go. But it's also conventional, which means we still need to live in this world the best that we can and be a bodhisattva. You still use your eyes to see, to hear, to do everything, to live in this world. There is a lady, her name is Christine Ha. She gradually became blind as she was growing up. With her disability, she learned how to cook in her kitchen. She used technology and she measures the water, knows where everything is kept, and she's able to cook delicious food. She's known for winning a cooking contest. Later, she opened her own restaurant. So you can use your life situation to be a bodhisattva and be inspiring to people in this conventional world. Lastly, this all indicate the meaning of the middle way. As it says in the Shraddhamma Sutra, your eyes, your ears, your nose, you can see, you can hear. That is all the treasury of the Tathagata, which means your true Buddha nature. As long as you don't think in duality, then you are living an enlightened life. Everybody can do it. You just need to understand how everything arises, understand emptiness, understand conditional existence, and understand you are already the Buddha, living here as a person who can taste, who can smell, who can touch, who can do all these things. So that's the class for today. Thank you for listening. Amitabha.